So one of the reasons why I wanted to particularly introduce and have Maya on tonight is because her story is amazing. I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to let her tell it. But if you are in the middle of or desiring change in your life or your business, she has done it all. Even in such a, she heard her say, I'm not millennialing right tonight, so she's super cute, but yet young, and has done so much in such a short amount of time. And so part of her journey has just been watching her evolve in the public eye, like online. And so one of the things that's so important when you are developing a brand, building a brand, is being able and comfortable and being transparent enough to tell the story, to be able to tell the story and bring people along your evolution. So that way they feel like that she's been able to do a lot with her community and community build. She says, I need the invite again. Okay. There we go. I'm adding you again, Maya.
Boom.
Woo.
Girl, my sister started FaceTiming me. Okay, sorry, y'all.
It's all good. It's all good.
Now let me just put this little thing up so y'all can actually see my face. All right, we in here.
Yes. I see you looking cute.
Listen, let me tell you what I did not look like 10 minutes ago. I definitely did not look like this. All righty. We in here.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Twerk break already.
Already. You already know it.
Here we go. All right. So I can officially now welcome and introduce hey, Max. Hey. Both Maya and her son, her fur baby, Max. I'm the auntie, by the way, one of the aunties. One of the things that is so important, Maya is just amazing. She was most recently featured in Forbes magazine for an article on 5 ways to develop a personal brand. And that is exactly why I wanted her on tonight, because she developed not only her personal brand, but she did it in the public eye through transformation and just bringing us along her entire journey, from everything dealing with relationships to business to faith. And she shared it. She didn't share it all, but she shared a good majority. And through that, she has been able to build an amazing community of followers. And therefore, people hire her from all over the world to do content building. She's a branding expert, and you can find more about her on mayaelious.com. So first of all, girl, thank you so much for being here tonight. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for that intro.
Yes. And so one of the things that, we met, gosh, what year was that?
I think 2014. 2015. Yeah. 2015.
2015, where we were in the same mastermind program with our amazing business coach, Marshawn Evans, who recently just came out with an awesome book called Believe Bigger. Definitely want to plug that really quick. Hey, yeah. Angela, thanks for joining. Hey, Shirley. And we crossed paths. I didn't really get a chance. I think I was finishing and she was starting. So it was almost like two ships passing in the night. But through that passing, we were able to start following each other, getting to know each other through social media. And then Insta stories came out, and I've been hooked ever since on her, following her on the gram and everything that she shares over there, which is everything from her personal life to encouraging. But what really caught my eye was, I think it must have been in 2015, you started on this amazing personal journey. And I don't want to go there yet. I want you to tell people a little bit about your beginning story. So many people, especially women will get caught up in, I need to go back to school to get this master's degree. I need to go back to school to get an undergrad degree. I need to go back to school. Hey, Sharinia, thanks for joining. I need to go get my doctorate degree. I need to go get all of this. Meanwhile, Maya was over here like, listen, I got all these skills and talents. How do I go get this money? Why don't you tell us a little bit about the beginning part of that journey?
Yeah, so the beginning part of my journey was in 2008. I had actually just graduated high school. I was going to a community college in Charlotte. I was going to Central Piedmont. And in high school, I was designing MySpace pages because I was just so obsessed with like creating custom things on the internet, playing around with like HTML coding. And while I was attending the community college, somebody asked me if I knew how to create custom MySpace pages, and then they offered me money to do it. I was like, I mean, if y'all gonna pay me for what I like doing anyway, like
Right.
let me see how I can like duplicate this. So anytime I
Mm-hmm.
find an area where I win, I'm like, how can I duplicate this win? So
Mm-hmm.
that's like how I started making money as far as like branding. And I started making money with branding before I even knew what branding was. I was just like, oh,
Right.
people are going to pay me to customize their MySpace. Like, this is so fun. So I did that. And then I obviously learned more about branding and web design and graphic design and actually how to use that design to help people further their message and further their business. And once I was starting to make money more consistently, I was like, okay, I don't really think I want to be in school anymore because I would be sitting in my classes, like designing a flyer, designing a website, designing a business card. And I was like, I'm not even paying attention to school. I don't like coming here. It's stressing me out. And so I dropped out finally in 2013. Even though I wanted to drop out probably a year or two later, but I finally had the
Mm-hmm.
courage to drop out in 2013.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Wow.
so
So
yeah.
basically, and this is more about having the courage to go after what it is that you want to do in that moment. And not everybody's path is going to be the same. You have to be comfortable that your path, it looks different, feels different, and may go against the grain of what everyone is telling you to do. Parents, colleagues, family members, your best friends. And she was sitting in class doing, like, I'm making money doing all of this stuff, and it was what she loved to do. So that's one of the things that I've always admired about your story, Maya, is just you being willing to do whatever is best for you at that moment, best for you at that
Mm,
moment. So one of the next part of the journey that I want to tell everybody about is you could have easily stayed in that space and you could have
mhm.
become the bomb.com graphic designer forever and ever, amen, right? And there
Uh-huh.
was a certain part of your journey and you were just like, I think there's a little bit more for me to do out here. I have more skills in this, I have more to offer. Tell us about that part of the transformation.
Like kind of making the decision where I'm like, I could either stay in school or drop out
No, go transitioning and leveling up from doing graphic
from
design
design to strategy.
solely, then doing strategy and content.
Yes. So when I really learned that I was valuable was when every single client wanted to always hop on a quick call with me and ask me questions and ask me for advice. And I was young. I didn't like talking on the phone. Like I'm all about like texting. So if you can't email me or text me, then my time, like I feel like my time is so valuable. So I'm like, I gotta start charging people to get on the phone with me. And that's just how my mind works. I'm like, if I
Mhm.
don't want to do something, like let me just charge money for it and then I'll learn to like it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when I realized that my clients really heavily depended on me more so than just design, but they really cared about my feedback regarding their strategy or their messaging and how they showed up online and what my opinion was of should I offer this product or should I offer that product? I was like, okay, well, there's something more to me than just being able to make a website look pretty. There's something more to me than just being able to put a quick flyer together for, social media. So I was like, well, let me just, say that I do consulting. Let me put it on my website and see who buys. I think at that time I was charging like 50 or $75 an hour or something like that. I'm like, well, let's just see like what happens. And that's kind of how I
Mhm,
operate. I'm kind of just like, yo, let's just see. Somebody's going to pay me. Let's see how it
mhm,
goes. And
mhm,
so I put it up there and then like people like started they were like following my blog and they bought into it and I was like, okay, this is like really happening. Then I'm like, okay, now I actually need to figure out what I'm doing though. If I'm going to be
right,
charging these
right,
people money,
right.
like what's the strategy? What do I talk to these people about on the phone? And I just started learning how to be better at my delivery with my strategy. Like what are the main things I want to help people with? What's going to be the outcome of, them hiring me and all of that stuff. But I think it's just once I realize my value in an area and other people have validated it, then I further validate it by like, okay, let me put a price point on it and see who pays me for it. And if people pay me, then I know it's good. And then I just keep raising the price.
And so, what I want everyone to hear, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, and if you know someone that wants to transform wherever they're at in their business, their life, even their faith, I would love for you to be able to share this video, because we haven't even got to all the good stuff yet. We're just getting started in the transformation points and steps. But I wanted to give you a backstory of how she became known as, and not unknown, but is a content and branding expert, and developed this amazing community online. But what I want you to hear and what she just shared is that when people started asking her for more, she put a price point on it. She started valuing her time, herself, and what she offered them. So many of us have an issue with charging. We have an issue with one, asking for a price, with two, increasing the price. And I don't know if it's her being a millennial or just her just saying, look, I don't want to do this, so let me charge. But she's been able to, from the very beginning, charge people for her time, her worth, and her value. And one quick thing, if you've ever tuned in, if this is your first time, the whole point of Courageous Conversations is for you to be able to take something away to make your next courageous move, whatever that is. Whatever that is. So I need you not to just watch and say, oh, this is great, this is good information, and then not go and do anything. So if that part was for you about charging, then I need you to figure out who you're going to charge or either increase the price with, like tonight. So now, Maya, now you are now charging people $50. By the way, that is not the cost today. That is not the cost today. But at that point, you're charging people, because she know better. She know better.
Right.
And you should too. If you don't know better, then your price shouldn't be $50 either. So
right. Just because I started there don't mean you need to start there.
Right. And we all started somewhere. I remember I wrote a contract. My uncle, I wrote a contract years ago, but this was before a business, before I was even in Charlotte. Wrote a little contract out. I think that thing, I don't know, it was $250 that he paid me in $50 increments or something. But listen, I felt like I was in business. I was in business. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was
right.
So now you're like, wow, I am more than a graphic designer. And you are, and even with that, audience, I need you to know, say to yourself, I am more than whatever you're calling yourself right now. So Maya realized, I am more than a graphic designer. I'm a strategist. I help with messaging. I help with content. Tell us a little bit about how you were able to transition, because it seems like it was almost, well, we know with God everything is not, there's no accident, but with you it felt almost accidental, like, yeah, I don't really want to do it, so let me just start charging for it, let me just put a price point on it, see what people, how they react to it. But how did you turn it into a thing? How did you build it and build this amazing community over time?
Well, I think what kind of made the transitions seem seamless was because I was allowing people to follow my journey the entire time. It wasn't like, what I can't stand, when everybody wants to like go into hiding and rebrand. They're like, I'm a graphic designer. They're like, okay, I'm rebranding. They come back 3 months later. They're like, okay, now I'm a business coach. And it's like, why did you disappear? Like, you need to let people follow your journey. So I think it was because I didn't go through these like disappearing acts. I would let the world know, like, hey, I'm still designing, but I'm also going to be transitioning into strategy. I would love for you to tell people about me. So, back then, like, Instagram wasn't as big the way that I use it now, and like Facebook groups and stuff like that. But I would just announce it on like Twitter or like my regular Facebook timeline and let people know about it. And also even like on my blog. I remember back then I was doing income reports, and I think this was right after I had dropped out of college, I think. And so I was doing income reports because I wanted people to see how much money I was making as a designer and how much money I was making with like passive income and like coaching and stuff like that, because
Mhm.
my goal was to make more money from strategy and passive income than I was making as a designer. And so in order to really track that, I was putting like showing the world what my income was looking like. So people were able to follow that journey without it seeming like random. And once people knew, they were like, okay, Maya's like the real deal because I've been following her journey, it was easier to build that trust once I fully established myself as a strategist.
Mm. So that is like the biggest thing. And I would say there are many keys to your success, but that's one of them is you have been so transparent with us that the whole world feels like those that follow you, which, feels like the whole world, they feel like they know you. They know Max. They're Max's auntie, like I am. They know your workout strategy. They know the business transformation. They know all of that. My biggest pet peeve is when I see people that talk about I forget the saying now. It's drawing a blank, but basically like they don't let anybody know, what's going on, and I forget how they say it online, but I'm just like, no, that's not okay. Like never, not everyone's a hater, not everyone's out to get you. And then, like you said, there's this new
Mm-hmm.
evolution of exactly what it is that they've done. And the thing that I
Mm-hmm.
love about you is that you have built trust every single year. Now, granted, I know she doesn't tell everything, but she tells us enough that it's a level of transparency that you feel like you are in Atlanta with her. You're going to church with her. You are following along with her amazing sister, with her being an auntie and all of that. And she lets you into her life. And so I would encourage you, for anyone that wants to create business transformation. I know that being public on social media and on video and all of that, it may not be everyone's thing, but it should be your thing if you desire to
Mm-hmm.
build community, if you desire to build a brand and all of that. I know for me, Maya, one of the things that I'll talk about, I don't go into the all the highs and lows of the journey, but being an entrepreneur, it can be difficult at times. So I'll let people in a little bit of, here's what I went through today, or here's, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my highlight reel to look like I'm just riding on cloud nine every single day of the week, because that's not the story, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that for me, I think when I first started, like we met, thank you, Angela. She says I
Thanks,
love this
Angela.
conversation. So I want you to talk about. We're going to come back to business, but I think one of the ways that we really connected, and I promised myself that I was not going to cry when I talked about your story, is that I watched you transforming your faith in the public eye, and
Mm-hmm.
you decided to make a decision to do some things differently in your life. I believe it was in 2015. And I knew the Maya before, and I knew the Maya that started to change. And you know how there's a lot of people that quote scriptures and stuff on social media, but there was something about you that said, this is different. This is
Mm-hmm.
real, that God is doing something. And
Mm-hmm.
so, why don't you tell people a little bit about that part of your journey as well? And then I'll ask you the next question after that.
Okay. So it was in 2016 that I really started to introduce faith into my business fully. Like my faith is something that I've always been vocal about, but I think more people started to notice it just because my following started growing even more with Periscope and doing live video and stuff like that. So to other people, it seemed like, oh, Maya's talking about her faith. Like, this is great. Sorry, Max is barking at the neighbors. But to me, it just seemed normal. But I think I was just more, I know that I was more vocal about it because my following was growing so much and it freaked me out. I was like, I feel like people are starting to worship me a little bit, and it totally freaked me out. I'm like, I need them to know that it's not me, it's God. Like, of course, I'm putting in the work, he's blessing me and stuff, but for me, whenever I feel like anybody's starting to worship me, I'm like, I want to just redirect them to the source of what's really happening here.
Mhm.
So that's why I started introducing faith into my business and also just in my life, because I was in a transition where I had just left a 3+ year relationship and I was like overweight. And I was like, I want to change, right? And I was like, I can't keep doing the same habits and that's going to take me, it's going to require me to just get to a new level mentally and spiritually. So I really kind of just like shut a lot of things out. I was like, I'm going to church and I'm going to the gym. Those are the two places you're going to see me. So when I tell you I was really snatched and I was really saved, like I was just really at the peak of who I needed to be as a woman. And you know, even like, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Somebody started waving to me.
I'm like, hey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I
So you
think
went to the
what
gym
was,
and you went to church, and you were snatched and saved, and you know.
hmm, right. And I think, you know, one thing that I had considered heavily was like, I know that I want to be married. I know that I want to be in a relationship and stuff like that. But I was like, who is the woman that I need to become in order to attract what I want? And so that's why I was like, yo, you got to change mentally, or else you're going to keep attracting the same, you know, relationships. You're going to keep attracting the same business outcomes. You're going to keep attracting the same thing unless you change the core of who you are. So that's why I
Mhm.
was like, I
Yeah.
got to really get to who God really wants me to be. I got to get my body the way it needs to be. So that was a huge part of it. I just needed to really shift in order to attract different.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and so she's sharing that in, you know, Akila said that is so true. She's sharing that in like a minute or two CNN version of that transformation, but it was a lot of work, and she shared that journey, with us on social media, and she talked about getting to her core and being able to change habits and behaviors. So the question that I would ask you is, if there's a different outcome that you want, what are the habits and behaviors that have to change in order for you to be able to get that? A lot of people, we
Mm-hmm.
want a lot of stuff, we'll talk about it, but for me, I know my area has been like just discipline, discipline in order
Mm-hmm.
to get it. For Maya, it may have been something else. So
Mm-hmm.
how did you, saying it is one thing, wanting it is one thing, but how did you actually say, I'm going to show up and get involved to church at a much deeper level than what I was before? I'm going to show up and go to the gym. How did you create those habits and behaviors? Because saying it is super easy, but I know that there are
Mm-hmm.
people that are either watching us live or will definitely go back and watch the replay, and they're like literally on the verge of change right now, and they want to do it, but they're struggling.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I'll say is that change for everybody is going to look a little bit different just based on that thing that's blocking you, right? So I knew for me, my issue was that, and this is still an ongoing issue, so it's always like being mindful of who you are and knowing how to, like, you know, cope with that. But for me, I'm somebody that really desires comfort and affirmation. And so for me, for comfort and affirmation, that was like drinking and relationships. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not going to date and I'm not going to drink. But then it was also
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, but you can't just not drink and not do relationships, because when you get
Mm-hmm.
bored, you're going to just default back into drinking and relationships because you haven't yet developed a habit. So it's like, in order to replace drinking and relationships, I would go to the gym and I would just, you know, reach out to my church community. So it's like I joined a small group. I was going to church maybe like 2, 3 times a week and just being around other people. So it was like, yes, you want to remove stuff, but then you also need to fill it with things that are more healthy. So that was something that I
Mm-hmm.
definitely had to do. And I had to be open with my community as well. Like, hey, y'all, this is what I'm not doing. So I need you guys to hold me accountable. And just being able to have somebody close enough that you respect to say, this is what I'm doing. I need to be held accountable. And just knowing that, like, you really can't do this yourself. It's going to take prayer. It's going to take somebody to call you out every once in a while. But don't feel like you need to be going through this by yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And so one of the things you'll see, Maya, is that I love to recap, because we will say, you will say so much gold, so many golden nuggets, that are, it's casual now because you've gone through the process, but somebody has to catch it. And so what I love that she said is she knew where her areas of vulnerability were. She knew that. So you have to identify what are your areas of vulnerability that are causing you to stay where you are, that are causing you to attract what it is that's getting in your way, the same thing over and over again. But at the same time, she knew, okay, I can stop it, but then what do I need to fill it with? What do
Mm,
I need to fill it with? if it's, dieting, if it's food, I woke up this morning like I have to change something in my health. And so
Mm-hmm.
now it's like, okay, yeah, I can stop eating what a X, Y, and Z, but now what do I fill that with? How do I learn new behaviors and being able to get to that? So hopefully I know, because if you're connected to me, you're doing the right thing and you're taking notes either on a scrap sheet of paper, your journal, on your tablet, or whatever, to be able to go back and say, what am I going to fill those voids with now that I have taken out the things that need to just absolutely go away. So you are now, Maya, in this state of you're working out, you're going to church, and how did that, and tell us all about, I know that you on Insta Story have shared several books that were really impactful and transformational to you as well. Why don't, if you could, if there's a book or two that really impacted you during this time, what was that?
Mm-hmm. The book Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend, if I'm pronouncing it
Mhm.
correctly. They're both Christian psychologists. And so for me, that book was really important because I was really learning how to create boundaries, just like with relationships, romantic relationships, platonic relationships, my family, and all of that. So that book was something that really changed how I saw how much I give to people. And it was really important for me that I read it by a psychologist, but also by a Christian, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, I need to be giving. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what God wants me to do. But I was giving from a place of like almost resentment, so to speak, because it was like, man, everybody wants everything for Maya. And so I just needed like scripture to kind of back up, like, yeah, you can give, but it's also cool if you keep the blessings that God gave you because he gave it to you. Like, you don't always have to, the moment you receive your blessing, it doesn't have to go out. And that's something that I still deal with. Like, the moment money comes in, I'm like, okay, what can I get for XYZ? Like, who can I spend this
Yeah.
money on today? Instead of like, or you girl, you can just save your money. Like, you have bills.
Yeah.
So just really understanding boundaries, because it was like I was always that person helping somebody pay their rent, somebody helping somebody pay for their bills, helping somebody pay for something, something, something. And I just needed to learn that it was okay for me to receive blessings. Like, I didn't have to feel guilty that like God was blessing me more than other people. I kind of felt like, I think it was almost like privileged guilt, where it was like, well, I grew up in such a good family, and my business is doing well. I should give to people who are not doing as well. But then it's also kind of like recognizing, but I did still work for this no matter what, and it's okay that I received the fruits of my labor.
Yeah, I love that there's a step and there's an action behind everything that we typically hear people say. Like, it's okay, to be able to keep what comes in, and it's okay that, you can, go and save. But how she got to that understanding wasn't just by hearing it, wasn't just by praying it, which if you follow me, I believe in prayer, but it was also by the actions of following and connecting with people that wrote books like Boundaries in order to teach her a new behavior, a new mindset. One of the things that I just also want to make clear to everyone that's watching and a part of the conversation is that many of us, we are called to higher levels. Like, it's just abundance. Like, if you are walking with God, there is no way that we should stay in the same level, same financial level, same emotional level, same spiritual level, whatever it is, for any significant time. You should go, almost, elevate each way. But one of the things that Maya said is she had an issue with being able to accept that. And as you get more money, as you grow spiritually, as you grow whatever that looks like, it is okay to take care of you first. Anytime you ride a plane, guess what? Put on your oxygen mask. Make sure your savings is okay. Make sure whatever is okay. So that was awesome. Um, and if there's any other resources, Maya, that you think of, feel free to, just kind of chime in and let us know what they were, what some of those steps were. And another thing that I would ask you in reference to that journey of developing your faith, and this is going to be a big one, because there are a lot of people who are believers, but we've been raised and taught that, the two, faith and business don't mix. It doesn't go together. And so we
Hmm.
try to keep them separate. And how were you able to develop a business and brand and get comfortable with just saying, you know what, this is who I am? And you get major speaking engagements around the country, and you have developed this amazing following. How were you able to just develop that comfort, or was it never an issue for you?
I mean, honestly, I don't think it was ever an issue for me. I think just because I know my heart is pure when I receive money, I always know I'm going to do something good with it. So it's never like a conflict where it was like, okay, when I'm in my faith, I'm doing good stuff for God. And when I'm getting money, I'm doing ratchet stuff for the people. So it was like, it was never really like a conflict, which I think people have. Like, people think money is evil. They think money is evil because they misinterpret what the word says. And I am always mindful to never put money ahead of God. But as I grow my business, I'm like, how can I use money to serve the kingdom? Like, how can I always use what I am receiving from Him to just continue to glorify Him? So I am really fortunate that that hasn't been something that I've had to deal with, but it's definitely something that I've had to, mentor clients through, where they're like, well, am I allowed to charge for this? Like, I'm a Christian. Is it okay if I charge other Christians for this stuff? And just understanding that money is not evil. We all got to pay bills. Do you feel evil when you pay your rent? Like, do you feel like your landlord is a bad person because they need you to pay them? So just understanding that money is just another tool to get to the next level, another tool to grow.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Good, 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 good. So that was a part of her personal life transformation. Now I want to jump back, going to more of the business transformation. So we told you a part of the beginning of her realizing, you know what, I can be a graphic designer. Let me learn all the tools for that, and then I can start charging for strategy and all of that. And then I want to say it was last year. Not only did you realize that you could be a graphic designer, you could be a content strategist, a branding strategist? You said, you know what, I can have a full blown agency. And why? I was like, you better go and do that, Maya. A full blown just agency, that where her agency handles it all for all of your branding needs. And I want you to tell us a little bit about how you were able to come to that decision of, just like from going from graphic designer to strategist and strategist to now having a full agency. What was that transformation like, and how did you get there?
Yeah, I remember exactly how I came to that point. I purchased a manifestation course by this expert named Denise Duffield Thomas, and her website is luckybitch.com. And so I purchased this manifestation course because I know, like, for me, I was like, oh, I don't have, good enough vision. I don't really know how to visualize things in my life. And there was this one exercise where she just like had you like sit and just picture who you wanted to be. I think it was like 8 years from now. Like, what did you look like? What were your peers like? Are you in a relationship? What does your apartment look like? And so I was picturing myself, my hair was flowing, my skin was good, my waist was snatched. And I also had an agency, and I had a team of women of color, which was awesome. And I was working with like just a small amount of clients. And I was like, oh, I love working with these clients. Like, this is so dope. And I remember like after doing that exercise, I'm like, I have to launch this. And I think I launched it like maybe 2 or 3 months later because I was like, I'm not wasting any time on this. So just seeing the type of impact that I could have, and seeing like the quality, like the type of quality of women that I could be working with, I was like, I really,
Mm-hmm.
really want to do this. So that was interesting. It's so weird, like looking back at some of the things that I did, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe like I pulled this off. Like, I decided I wanted to do it, I did it, and it worked. Like, it's crazy
Mm-hmm.
when you actually decide you want to do something and you put in the work, like it really does work. It's almost like impossible to fail because if you keep going, somebody's always going to say yes. So I think like launching the agency, although I'm not sure if I still want to move forward with the agency model, but I'm just so happy that I did it because I learned
Mm-hmm.
a lot, and I learned so much about like how much people were willing to trust me with their business because we offered a
Mm-hmm.
lot, and it cost a lot. So that was like that was the most expensive package I had ever put out there, and people paid me for it. And I was like, okay, people really trust me with this. Like, I guess I actually know what I'm doing. It's like after how many years of doing it, you still need that validation, Maya, but it was
Right,
still
right.
really cool, being able to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that what you heard and what she just shared is the speed that she moved. So she didn't just take this manifestation course and like sit it in a journal and sit it on a shelf. Like that would be nice one day, when I'm 35, 45, 55. It was like, no, we can make this happen in 2 or 3 months. What causes you not to hesitate?
Hmm, that's a good question. Man, I don't know. I think honestly, maybe just the excitement of fear. Like, I'm just like, what would
Mm-hmm.
I possibly fail at? Like, I'm just curious, what would not work for Maya? What would not work with God on my behalf? Like, I'm just curious. And so I'm just like,
Whoa.
let's just do this. Let's just do this. Like, let's just see. And I think, like, I'm really fortunate that that's always kind of been like my attitude towards things. Like, let's just see who's not gonna pay me. I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
think I just entrepreneurship to me is like a fun game. And it's like, let's just keep putting stuff out there that makes me feel good and see what I can receive from it. And so, like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to hesitate on something that's a fun game to me. I just want to keep going. Like, I want to continue the journey. It's just fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I love it. She said, what would God not do on my behalf? Or however you just said it. It was amazing. And that's the question that I would pose to you. What won't he do on your behalf? So many times, Maya. And I'll say it's with all ages. I definitely feel like in the millennials and in your generation of there's definitely a much more you're less risk adverse than those that are a teeny weeny bit older than you. But at the same time, I feel like many people at any age will look at it and say, I don't know if I can do this. But what I encourage you is to those that are watching live or the replays to be able to say, what could happen? One of my favorite quotes that, I share with people all the time is, I'm not afraid of failure. I'm afraid of regret. So she says,
Mm,
I don't even know if I want to, continue on with the agency model. But the thing is, she tried it. She doesn't have to regret. What would it look like if I didn't do it? Would it have worked? I don't know. She knows that it worked, that people paid her the most money that she's ever, received for that particular type of model. And now she can say, been there, done that. Do I like it? Yeah, maybe, maybe not, and move on to the next thing. So I don't
mhm.
know what you're afraid of, but is it more about the fear of failure, or will you regret never having tried the thing that you've been thinking about before this broadcast?
Mm,
So
mhm.
Akila
Yeah.
said, good motto. Angela said, yes. I told y'all this interview tonight with Maya Elious was going to be amazing because she's just so, so awesome. I adore you so much.
Oh,
I'm
thank
so,
you.
so
Thanks.
super proud of you. So super proud of you. I know I'm a
Thank
little
you.
tad bit older, so half the time I'm feeling over there like I'm a proud auntie of you, just doing your thing, twerk breaks and all. One of your favorite quotes is, you on stage dancing. And what was the quote you said?
When you have the chance to sit it out or dance, I hope you twerk.
Yes. And so the thing that I love
Oh,
about Maya, she brings her full personality, ratchetness and all. She brings it all to Instagram, social media, whatever platform she's on, to the stage, just who she is. And God is just lighting up her path all the way. So Maya, why don't you tell us before we begin to close out, and if you have any questions for Maya, and this is what I tell you, Maya does not charge $50 anymore,
thanks,
and she won't
Ryan.
be able to coach you tonight, like coach you. But if you do have a question, now is your opportunity. Because if you try to inbox her or me after this, the answer may not be as quick. It may not be as quick. It may not be, exactly in a timely fashion, or it may have a charge to it. So ask your questions. But as you are writing your questions about transformation, branding, content, whatever that may be, Maya, why don't you tell us kind of where you're at now, what you have going on, and maybe even what's next as you look ahead to the rest of 2018?
Oh man, where am I at now? It's always easier to look back on like what I've done because it sounds so successful when I get to look back. But like in the moment, like I feel like I never really know what I'm doing. I'm just doing stuff and hoping for the best. I think right now I've been speaking a lot more, which has been really cool, really great. Like it's such an honor that like people trust me to get on their stage, and I get on the stage with other like great speakers. So definitely have been speaking more. I've been doing more one-on-one coaching, which is something that I really enjoy, like doing
I
full
just
day
do, yeah.
VIP strategy sessions. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really just enjoy that personal connection with my clients. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just thinking about doing more of that. I'm still working with a couple agency clients, but I'm thinking about transitioning more so to working with like smaller groups and like weekend strategies. So I think that's the direction I'm going to be moving forward in.
Okay, okay. And what I love about it is the flexibility. You know, it's not
Hmm.
a you started this, you got to stick with it for the rest of your life, and you don't know how it's going to work
Right.
out. It's one of those things of, you know what? Here's what I'm feeling. Here's the thing about purpose. Now I think that was one of the things that I was thinking about earlier is, you know, so many people are, they ask what's my purpose, what should I be doing, and they try to make it this big thing for like the next like 20 years, next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And I always say, you know, that's a good question, but what is your purpose like right now in this moment? And so what you just heard Maya say is what she feels led and what she feels called to do right now in 2018. In 2019, it might look completely different, you know, but for right
Hmm.
now, she enjoys speaking and she enjoys her one-on-one time with her coaching clients and is looking at transitioning the agency clients to that. I would encourage you to ask yourself, what is it that you enjoy doing now? I know you're building like this amazing like company brand or even this amazing life, but it doesn't have to be this overwhelming, overbearing transformation. That it's more so,
Hmm.
what does God want me to do and what is he asking of me like now in May in 2018, you know? And
Hmm.
that's where she's at. She's like, you know what? Here's what I'm thinking about. If I talk to her in October, it might look completely different. So
It
I
might, yeah.
encourage you. I
Hmm.
encourage you to have the flexibility in your life and business to invite God in and say, God, what are we doing today? What are we doing right now?
Girl,
So I
yes,
don't see any
exactly.
questions. You said what, Maya?
I was just saying exactly because I went through a transition where I really didn't work that much for a few weeks because I wasn't feeling well. I was sick, and it was like, you know, slowing down is hard for entrepreneurs, like especially if you're
Mm-hmm.
like that type of person that's like go go go. But it was like I physically couldn't really do the type of work that I wanted to, and it was like my income didn't change at all. Like clients that I had never even heard of were coming out of nowhere, and it was just like, man, I mean, I was just so humbled in that moment because I'm like, yo, like God's got me. Like all this stress about like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Like, let that
Mm-hmm.
go. Like, man, when you're really down and out, you realize how like this ain't got nothing to do with you. Like, you really
Nothing,
think what you posted on
nothing.
Instagram got you all these clients. You really think your email list is what got you popping? It's like, no, like God wanted you to win, and that's why you're winning. And so,
Wow.
like, just knowing that, like, it wasn't about the strategy that I did for the last 3 weeks because it was like, I couldn't really do what I wanted to do. Like, I had planned this season for me to, like, I'm going to go hard. I'm going to post on Instagram every day. I'm going to post videos, all this, all that. I couldn't do it. I wasn't feeling good. And clients were still coming in. And I was just like, wow. Like, it was just a humbling reminder that it's like, yeah, you put in the work, but it's like, God's got you, though. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have the strength to do it, like you just got to rely on him. Like that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned this season.
Wow. I don't even want to like rush through this moment of what you just shared, you know, because wow. Um, Entrepreneurs, there's this hustle mentality that we have, Maya, that, you know, that has been
Hmm.
put out there that says you gotta hustle, hashtag team no sleep, and all of this stuff. But I need you to catch what she just said. Yes, you put in the work. Yes, you do all those things. But at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with you or anything else. You do the right things. But even if we are in a position of slowing down, of needing to just sit down somewhere just to catch a breath, you know what? You're in this place of saying, you know, it wasn't my strategy, it wasn't any of that. It's all God, you know, because only he can bring in the clients during 3 weeks when you don't have the opportunity to post and to share and to do all the things that you would normally do. So I know that that definitely blessed
Right.
someone tonight. So Mike, we had a couple
Hmm.
of questions. If you have a little bit more time that came in, I want to address those
Okay.
really quickly.
Okay.
Latasha said, How do you deal with people saying that you are being inconsistent when you change up your model or transition to something else? That's good.
Mm. That is a good question because I was as I, as we were talking about how I'm always like transitioning and doing stuff like that. Um, to me, I kind of feel like your purpose is always going to be the same. I feel like I was always designed to help women grow their business, whether it was me doing a MySpace page or a website or a strategy call. My purpose is always the same, where I'm going to empower women to do what they have to do. I'm going to empower women to turn their purpose into a business and make money, but the delivery just looks different a little bit. So it's not that I'm inconsistent because my model changes. It's just that I'm always in elevation. So the consistency comes from the doing and the not giving up, and from the elevation and listening to God. Like, I'm most likely not going to be doing the same thing year after year after year. But one thing that is going to remain is that I'm always going to be building women up and helping them create their highest level of impact. So it's not inconsistent if the purpose is consistent.
Mm. It's not inconsistent if the purpose is consistent. Latasha, I know that you heard that and are taking notes in what Maya just said in reference to that. Ryan said, looking back on your journey so far, do you ever look back on something and say, I wish I could have done that different? That's a good question.
That is a good question. Um, yeah, like all the time. Like there's some people or like there's some instances where I'm like, oh, I wish I would have said no to that client. Like they ended up being a headache, or I wish I could have done better for that client because, I dropped the ball on this. There's definitely instances, but it's kind of cool having those moments where you're like, it's humbling moments again, where you're like, I ain't all that. Like, I really could have done this better, and I have to take this into the next season with me. So I can't pinpoint a specific moment right now off the top of my head, but for me, I think it's probably just like saying yes or no to like the right opportunities, because that's the thing about entrepreneurship too, where it's like everything seems like an opportunity if it has a dollar amount tied to it, but it's just kind of like knowing when to say no and not getting, sidetracked, but like by what seems good, but what's, really not in alignment with what you should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thank you so much for that Maya. Any other questions before we end? And if not, Maya, would you mind? One of the things that I love doing for our guests is just, praying with them, over their life, over their business before we close out and having everyone touch and agree. Would you mind if we did that tonight?
Let's do it. I'm all about that.
I
I
don't
can
see
always
any
use
other
some
questions.
prayer.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Well, first of all, for those of you that have joined in, thank you so much. If you joined in a little bit later, make sure you go back and watch from the beginning, because Maya shared all about her personal journey, her business journey, her transformation, and how she's been able to take it step by step by step. You'll definitely need something to write with. You'll definitely need something to record, a device or something to capture all of the good nuggets that she shared. Before we pray, Maya, any last words of advice for those looking to create change, transformation, either in their business or their personal life?
Mm. Yeah, I would just say keep moving, like keep just attempting things and be okay with failing. Like I was looking at a quote earlier today actually for a talk, and it's by Winston Churchill, and he was saying success is moving from failure to failure without lack of enthusiasm. And I think that's really what has me here, because it's like I've always moved quickly and I'm successful now, but it doesn't mean that everything that I did went well. It just means that I kept going even if it didn't go well. So I just want to encourage you guys to really let go of ego. Like a lot of times we're afraid of failure because we're afraid of what other people will think. And it's like, that doesn't matter. Like, let's think about who you can help because you decided to move forward. So it's like, let's think about who you can help even in the midst of failure. You're going to have a bigger impact by trying and failing than you are when you're not doing anything because you want to be perfect. So my advice to you is to just keep going. Like, don't stop. Just keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Don't worry about the failure. Worry about just taking action and creating impact.
That's so awesome. Thank you for that. Let's just go ahead and pray. And everybody, we can just close out in prayer. Father God, I just thank you so much for Maya. there's just a special calling on her life, God. You can see it through all of her posts. You can see it through her relationships. You can see it in her business. And I truly believe that she has yet to experience all that you have for her, that there is just something and even more amazing, even with all her success, even with her features and her speaking and all of that, that there's more that you desire to pour out on her, your love, just in her business, in her personal life. God, you are doing a new thing. I thank you, God, for healing in her body and for just replenishment of energy and all that she's been going through, oh God, that you have everything that she needs, that you would literally restore anything that is out of whack as she is just regaining strength and energy, Lord God. I pray for her relationships. I pray for her friendships, her business partnerships. I pray for her husband that is on the way, oh God, the one that is meant for her, that she will never have to have a heartbreak again, oh God, but it would be the one that would match who she is, that would match, that would give all the affirmations in the world, God, because you know that's what she desires, and that is how you made her, how you created her, God. I thank you, oh God, that as she walks into more and more abundance, that you would give her even more confidence of when to take care of herself and knowing when to give and how to bless the kingdom, oh God, that you would give her insight and strategy of who to give to and when to give, and even when to give to herself, Lord God. I thank you for what's in store. I know she had an initiative, and her desire in coming into this year was to impact 1,000 women. God, Lord, there are millions. There are millions around the world that need her voice, that need her energy, that need her personality, that need her gifts of strategy and messaging and design and all that is in her heart. I ask, oh God, that as she is trying to figure out what's next and even building her one-on-one clients and speaking around the country, that you would continue to give her more and more clarity. God, we thank you for who you are. We thank you for what you're doing in Maya's life and her business. And we love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that very much.
You are so
Thank you.
welcome. You're so welcome. You already know I'm super when I message you, Maya, I don't message everybody and tell them that. There's a lot of people out here doing a lot of stuff, but when I message you and tell you how proud I am of you, I am, because I can see what God has done and is doing in your life, and that there's so much more to come. And I can't wait to continue watching and be like, I know her. That's my girl. So,
Yes,
so
I
keep.
remember, I think 2015 when I was trying to put together like a speaker media kit, and you sent me yours, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so nice. Like, I don't have to go figure out this
I
stuff
did.
from
I
scratch.
don't
And
even
like,
remember that.
yes, yeah. And like, those are the little things like, man, see, just even like people are always wondering, like, what can I do to be cool? What can I do to make an impact? And it's like, man, when you just have a good heart, you just do stuff like that. Like, that's one of those, I'll just never forget that. Like, I'll just
Yeah.
never forget that. And so it's just kind of like, knowing that you have somebody that believes in you enough to like share what they're doing, somebody that's, more steps ahead of you, that's like, here's my speaker media kit, like you can take a look at this. So thank you so much for believing in me and supporting me. It means the world to me.
You are so welcome. You're so welcome. Well, everyone, thanks so much for joining. Whether you are live or watching the replay, Maya is amazing. You can visit her on mayaelious.com if you're interested. Let me tell you, if you're watching tonight, June is going to be off the chain. We're getting ready to do the mid-year reset. And if you have been dealing with anything, dealing with distractions, delays in life, in your business, then we're talking about all about prayer, worship, all of those things that you need to be able to get you back on track for the remaining of 2018 as we hit July. So don't miss out, but go to bit.ly/ join the conversation if you want to just stay connected, learn more about courageous conversations and all of that. Maya, thank you so much. Can't wait to see what God has for you, and have a good night, everybody. Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.
Bye-bye.